I watched from the penthouse window as the squad cars screeched up to my childhood brownstone in Brooklyn, lights flashing like accusations in the humid August night. And I knew right then that Victor Hale had finally pulled the trigger on his masterpiece of lies. My hands, his hands, really, with those manicured nails that felt like claws, trembled against the cool glass. Not from fear, but from the cold fury of a girl who'd lost everything twice over. First her family, then her own damn skin. And as the cops hammered on the door downstairs, dragging my mother out in handcuffs while my father shouted about innocence in that broken English accent he'd never shaken after 30 years in this country, I whispered to the empty room, "Time to burn it all down. You son of a bitch, starting with you." The swap happened 6 months ago, in a sterile boardroom at Hale Tekka's headquarters overlooking the Hudson, where the air smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. Victor Hale, my uncle by marriage, God, how that title chokes me now, was pitching his latest miracle to a room full of venture capitalists, neural transference, a revolutionary leap in consciousness uploading. He called it eternal echo, a way to digitize your mind. Cheat death. Upload your soul to the cloud like some Silicon Valley wet dream. But I knew better. I'd been his intern, Annabelle Ruiz, fresh out of NYU, with a poli-sci degree and stars in my eyes, thinking family ties would get me a foot in the door at the family empire he'd built on my father's broken back.
My dad, Javier,
had been Victor's first investor back in the 90s, scraping together every penny from his bodega in the Bronx to fund the startup that became Hale Tech.
Mom,
Elena, handled the books, turning their immigrant hustle into a multi-million-dollar nest egg. Victor? He was the charm, the shark in a Brooks Brothers suit, schmoozing Wall Street while Dad flipped empanadas at dawn. They trusted him like blood, which is why when the IRS came knocking 2 years back, alleging embezzlement from the company's early funds, Dad took the fall. "It's a mix-up," Victor had soothed, his hand on Dad's shoulder like a benediction. "I'll fix it. Sign this plea. Keep it quiet for the family." Dad did 6 months in Rikers, came out a ghost, and we lost the bodega to cover legal fees. But that was just the appetizer. The main course was the $4 million siphon from Hale Tekka's R&D slush fund last year, money meant for Eternal Echoes trials. Victor cooked the books, framed it on a ghost account tied to my parents' old business. I found the ledgers hidden in his cloud drive during a late-night audit I wasn't supposed to run. One email chain sealed it. Javi and Elena take the heat. They'll never trace it back. Clean slate for Phase 2. I confronted him that rainy Tuesday, storming into his office with printouts shaking in my fists. "You're destroying them, Victor." "For what? Your ego? Some immortality scam." He didn't even blink, just leaned back in his leather throne, ice clinking in his scotch. "Annabelle, sweetheart, this is America. Winners write the rules. Your folks? They're yesterday's news, collateral in the game." Then he laughed, that guttural bark that made investors wet themselves. I lunged, spilling his drink, and in the chaos, we grappled over the prototype helmet on his desk, the neural rig, half-baked, wired for a one-way sync. Sparks flew, literally, as the thing shorted out. Pain exploded in my skull like a migraine from hell, and the world dissolved into static. When I woke, it was his face staring back from the mirror, sharp jaw, salt and pepper hair, eyes like polished obsidian. Victor's body, 6'2" of tailored menace, but inside,
me, trapped.
The tech had glitched, swapping us mid-fight. His consciousness blasted into mine, petite, 5'4". The body of a 25-year-old Latina who'd spent her life fighting to be seen. I could feel echoes of him in there. Faint whispers like radio static, board meetings, mistresses, the thrill of the con. But I shoved it down, locked it away.
He,
In my skin, would wake up disoriented, playing catch-up while I figured out how to weaponize this freak accident. First thing I did, raided his closet for a suit that didn't drown me. Then hacked his calendar from my laptop. Turns out, Victor was knee-deep in Phase 2, bribing FDA insiders to fast-track Eternal Echo, using that stolen $4 mill as grease. The betrayal burned hotter than the swap's aftershock headache. These weren't just numbers. This was Dad's dream he'd perverted. Mom's trust he'd shattered. And me? I'd been the fool. In turning for the man who saw me as a pawn. A pretty face to parade at galas while he gutted our legacy. I spent the first week as Victor Hale playing the part. Voice modulator app on my phone to deepen the timbre. Practicing that smug grin in the elevator mirrors of 1-Pen-1. Board meetings were a minefield. Handshakes with venture vultures who smelled weakness, like blood in the water.
Vic.
You look off, one said. A hedge fund prick named Harlan. Jet lag from the Davos prep? I forced the laugh.
Nah.
Just the wife nagging about golf weekends. Lies on lies. But it bought time. Nights. I'd pore over his files in the penthouse. A glass-walled fortress in Tribeca with views that mocked the struggle below. That's when I found the kill switch, a digital trail he'd buried, ready to activate an audit that would pin the theft squarely on my parents' dormant accounts. Scheduled for dawn today. That's why the cops were at the door now, as I watched from on high, impotent in this stolen shell. But impotence ends tonight. I slipped into the elevator, heart pounding like a subway rumble, and hailed a black Escalade outside. Brooklyn, I told the driver. Victor's Amex burning a hole in my wallet. The city blurred past, neon signs hawking halal carts and vape shops. The pulse of a beast that devours the weak. By the time I hit the brownstone stoop, the cuffs were on, Mom's sobs cutting through the night like knives. Dad spotted me first, me in Victor's face, and his eyes widened, confusion twisting into something like recognition. Vic? What the hell? Tell them. Man, it's you, the lead detective. A burly Irish type named O'Brien with a mustache like a 70s cop show. Turned. Mr.
Hale.
Didn't expect you here. This is a family matter. I stepped forward, channeling every ounce of Victor's boardroom bluster. Detective, there's been a misunderstanding. Let me see the warrant. He handed it over. And there it was. Forged transfers. Timestamps I'd planted last night as a feint, pointing to a shell corp in the Caymans, Victor's rainy day fund. Not theirs. But the real evidence? It was in his safe deposit box at Chase Manhattan, a USB drive with unredacted ledgers. I'd emailed an anonymous tip to the DA an hour ago. CCNG O'Brien's precinct. Check the metadata, I said, voice steady. It leads back to Haletech. My company, Mom gasped, her face crumpling under the porch light. Annabelle, is that? She trailed off, the drugs from the swap's residue making her slur. But Dad got it. His eyes locked on mine, fierce through the bars of the cruiser. Hijah, he mouthed. Daughter. Victor, in my body, was probably pacing the ER by now, piecing together the glitch, realizing his empire was crumbling from the inside. O'Brien radioed it in, and as the uniform uncuffed my parents, I felt the first crack in the facade, the controversial itch. The one that whispered, "What if you let it ride? Let them fry? Take the throne?"
But no.
This was for them.
For me.
The ride back to the penthouse was silent, rain streaking the windows like tears I couldn't shed in this borrowed face. Victor's phone buzzed. A text from his mistress. "Miss you. Big guy. Gala tomorrow." I deleted it, then pulled up the Eternal Echo schematics. Time to rewrite the code. Permanently. Dawn broke over the East River like a guilty conscience, painting the penthouse in bloody hues as I nursed a black coffee. Victor's ritual. 2 sugars. Splash of oat milk for the Instagram crowd, and plotted the next move. The cops had hauled us back to the precinct with the USB. O'Brien's gruff, "We'll be in touch. Mr. Hale hanging like a noose." My parents were free. For now. But Victor's machine was greased with more than money. It was lawyers, lobbyists, senators in his pocket from DC cocktail circuits. One wrong step, and I'd be the one in cuffs, explaining why Victor Hale was suddenly advocating for whistleblower protections. I needed leverage. Real, nuclear-grade dirt. So I dove into his digital crypt, the one hidden behind biometric locks that now bent to his fingerprint. Folders upon folders. Offshore accounts in Panama. Payoffs to FDA reviewers disguised as consulting fees, even a slush fund for personal security, code for the PI who'd tailed Dad post-Rikers, planting doubts about his rehab to keep the family fractured.
But the gem?
A video file timestamped a year ago, labeled insurance policy. I hit play, and there was Victor, in my internship cubicle after hours, leaning over a trembling 18-year-old temp named Sophia, his diversity hire, fresh off the boat from Ecuador. "Sign this NDA, or your green card dreams." Poof. The camera caught it all, his hand on her thigh, her flinch, the coerced signature on a backdated memo tying her to the embezzlement. He'd framed her too, a disposable immigrant to muddy the waters if the heat got too close. Rage boiled up, hot and American as a 4th of July sparkler. This wasn't just theft, it was the whole rotten underbelly of the dream we'd chased. Sophia. I had to find her. Victor's contacts list was a Rolodex of sins, mistresses in the Hamptons, dealers in the village, a fixer named Marco who handled discreet relocations. I called him from a burner app, pitching it as Victor, the girl from last year. Ecuadorian. "Where'd you send her?" Marco chuckled, gravelly as a smoker's hack. "Boss. You sure? That one's buried deep. Jersey. Some no-name motel off the turnpike. But she's mouthy, might cost extra to keep quiet." I wired him $5,000. Got the address. Econo Lodge in Secaucus. Room 214. Controversial decision number 1. Do I drag her into this web? Make her a pawn in my revenge chess? Or let her rot? Another ghost in Victor's wake? I chose the drag because fuck him. And fuck the system that lets men like him feast on the vulnerable. Solidarity. The gritty kind forged in barrios and boardrooms alike. The drive was a gauntlet of Jersey sprawl, big box stores leaching color from the sky, semis rumbling like threats. I parked the Escalade under a flickering sodium lamp, the suit feeling like armor and shackles. Knocking on 214, I braced for flight risk, but Sophia opened slow, chain still latched, her eyes hollowed by fluorescent regret. She was tiny, bird-boned, with the kind of beauty that fades under fluorescent regret. "Señorale?" Her voice cracked, accent thick as the humidity. "Not him," I said, slipping a photo of myself pre-swap Annabelle through the gap.
Me.
The intern. I know what he did. The chain dropped, and she pulled me in, room reeking of takeout lo mein and despair. Over weak tea from a hot plate, she spilled Victor's mentorship, the NDA trap. How Marco had relocated her after she threatened HR, paid off $1,000 and a one-way bus ticket to nowhere. He say it's for family, she whispered, clutching the photo like a talisman.
But you.
You look different in his eyes. I told her everything, the swap, the frame job, the pending raid on my parents. Her laugh was bitter, a sound like breaking glass. Ghosts and machines. Only in America. We hatched the plan there. On that sagging bedspread, she'd testify. But anonymously, via a deepfake vid-eyed rig using Eternal Echoes beta software. Controversial? Hell yes. Faking evidence in a revenge play? That's vigilante territory. The kind that gets you labeled a terrorist or a hero, depending on the headline. But Sophia nodded, fire sparking in her eyes. For my sister. She dreams of here, too. No more wolves. Back in the penthouse. I synced the rig to Victor's server. My fingers, his fingers, flying over keys in a rhythm that felt alien, yet intuitive. Like muscle memory from a life I never lived. The deepfake rendered in hours, Sophia's face. Her words, time-stamped to Victor's private jet log from the night of the mentorship. I leaked it to a stringer at the Post. The kind who thrives on Me Too scandals with a tech twist. By noon, it was viral. Hail tech CEO in Sex for Silence bombshell? Victor, in my body, would be fielding calls from his board. That pretty face I once owned now twisted in panic. But he was adapting faster than I'd hoped. A ping on the server alert. Unauthorized access from a VPN in Queens, my old apartment. He was there, rifling through my things.
Piecing the swap.
I imagined me, staring into my vanity mirror, touching the curve of my hip, the softness of my hair.
Horror dawning.
Good. Let him taste the cage. I fired off a taunt email from an Anon account. How's the view from down there? Uncle? Comfy in my skin. No reply, but the server logs showed him scrambling, deleting backups. Too late. I'd mirrored everything to a dark web drop. Evening brought the gala at the Met. Black-tie vipers slithering through Egyptian halls under crystal chandeliers. I arrived as Victor, arm candy-free, nursing a flute of Veuve that tasted like ash. Harlan cornered me by the temple of Dender, breath sour with caviar.
Vic.
The Post. What the fuck? Stocks dipping 5 points. I clapped his shoulder. Victor's charm dialed to 11. Smoke.
Harlan.
Deepfake bullshit from a disgruntled ex. Lawyers are on it. Lies bought time. But inside, the tension coiled like a spring. Every toast, every air kiss a reminder that one slip, and I'd lose the shell. Wake up as roadkill in his discarded frame. That's when I saw her, my body, gliding through the crowd in a red sheath that hugged curves I'd mourned. Victor, puppeteering me, eyes scanning like a hawk. Our gazes locked across the room, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed. 2 souls in stolen lives. Mirrors of malice. He smiled my smile and raised a glass. Game on, it said. I turned away, pulse thundering, and slipped into the shadows of the American wing. The revenge was personal now. A duel of identities in the city that never sleeps.
But sleep?
That was for the innocent. I had sins to settle. The morning after the gala, Victor escalated. I woke to a blackout. Hailteka's servers firewalled. My access revoked by executive override. He'd sweet-talked IT in my voice. That honeyed lilt with a hint of Bronx edge. And now the penthouse smart home was locking me out. Fridge beeping empty. Lights flickering like a poltergeist. A note on the kitchen island, scrawled in my looping script. Annabelle. Darling, let's chat. Coffee at Dean and DeLuca? 10 a.m. Come alone. Or Mom gets the full audit. The bastard was leveraging the one thread I couldn't cut. Family. Controversial decision, too. Meet him on his turf. Risk exposure. Or ghost and watch Elena Ruiz become the fall girl for real. I chose the meet. Not out of fear. But calculus, this city runs on bluffs. And I needed to see his play up close. In my own damn face. Dean and DeLuca hummed with the Midtown rush, power suits clutching out lattes. Whispers of crypto crashes and congressional probes. I spotted him at a corner table. Legs crossed in my favorite skinny jeans. Hair tousled just so. Up close. It was surreal, my reflection weaponized. Green eyes sharp as broken bottles. Cousin, he purred, sliding a courtesy my way. You wear me better than I thought. The board's eating it up. I sat. Voice modulator cranked low. Cut the shit.
Vic.
The deepfake's live. Cops are circling your Panama pots. Swap back. Or I dropped the full ledger. Sophia's vid was just foreplay. He leaned in, my lips curving in a smirk. Swap?
Oh.
Sweet girl. That's not how this ends. Eternal Echo's glitch was a gift. You think I didn't plan for contingencies? Phase 3. Full overwrite.
Tonight.
At the lab. Your mind? Archived. Mine? Eternal. Horror iced my veins. He'd reverse engineer the swap. Erase me like a bad draft. But his eyes, my eyes, flickered with the lie. Victor was a bluffer, not a builder. The tech was vaporware, propped by theft and hype. I probed, casual as a deposition. And the $4 mill? Parents. He waved it off. Loose ends. But hey, credit where due, you're making me sympathetic. The reformed CEO arc? Gold for the memoir. That's when I saw the tale. 2 suits by the pastry case. Earpieces glinting. His security, no doubt. Time to flip the table. I stood, knocking the courtesy into his lap, my lap, and hissed, "Tell Marco to watch his back." Sophia's singing to the feds. His face, mine, paled, and I bolted, weaving through the crowd like a ghost in a suit. Back at the penthouse, I bypassed the locks with a USB bootlegger, heart slamming as alerts blared. Victor's overwrite plan? Bluster. But the lab breach was real, tonight's dry run for FDA demos. Rigged to fry any loose neural ends. I called Dad from a payphone in the lobby. Voice raw.
Pa.
It's me. Annabelle. Trust nothing from me. The body's not mine. He choked up. The man who'd taught me to hustle chess in Washington Square.
Mia.
We saw the news. Victor. He's saying you're unstable. On something. Cops questioned us again. Betrayal's echo. Deep as the swap scar. Stay low. I love you. Hung up before the sob escaped. Sophia met me at a dive in Hell's Kitchen. Neon buzzing O'Flaherty's over sticky floors. She slid a thumb drive across the scarred oak from Marco's phone. Hacked it. He talks too much after whiskey. Goldmine texts linking Victor to the theft. Voice memos of payoffs. Even a geotag from the $4 mill wire. a Cayman drop tied to a senator's campaign. But the kicker? A photo, me,
Pre-swap.
at a family barbecue, Victor's arm around Dad. All smiles. Caption: Pawns in place. The hidden secret hit like a gut punch. Dad hadn't just invested. He'd co-signed the original patents. Naive trust giving Victor the keys to the kingdom. The Riker stint? Not a mix-up, but Victor's first squeeze. Testing loyalty. We amped the leak. Sophia's contact at an immigrant rights NGO funneled it to ProPublica, framing it as Tech Titan's immigrant exploitation ring. By afternoon, CNN was looping, pundits howling about ethics in AI. The American dream curdled into nightmare fuel. Stock plunged 20%. Board called emergency Zoom. Me dialing in as Victor, feigning outrage. Sabotage. We'll sue. But inside, the tension was exquisite. A taut wire ready to snap. Victor retaliated that night. My phone, his old one, blowing up with voicemails in my voice. You think you're winning? I am you now. Your body's mine, soft. Breakable. One call to the right cop. And Annabelle Ruiz is the junkie thief. Chills. But I trace the ping. Hail Tech Lab. Prepping the overwrite rig. Climax brewed under sodium lights. The lab of fortress in Long Island City. Guards patrolling chain link like mall cops on steroids. I scaled the fence in Victor's loafers. Ridiculous. But adrenaline's a hell of a tailor. Sophia feeding drone cams from a van 2 blocks over. Inside. Sterile white corridors hummed with servers. The air thick with ozone and ambition. I found him in the neural suite, my body strapped to the chair, helmet humming like a hornet's nest. Annabelle, he cooed, flipping switches. Join the party. We'll be gods. Hail Tech Eternal. I lunged from the shadows, tackling my own frame in a tangle of limbs and betrayal. Give it back. The helmet sparked. Echoes of the first swap. Pain lancing through both skulls. We grappled. His strength surprising my strength. Honed by gym sessions he'd mocked. And for a moment, I saw the abyss. 2 consciousnesses fraying. Ready to merge or annihilate. Controversial choice 3. End him here. Overwrite his mind into oblivion. Claim the body double dip? Or mercy? Risk the swap back and the fallout? The wire snapped. I yanked the power cord. Static exploding. And collapsed as the world inverted again. Agony. Then clarity. I blinked into the lab's glare. Tasting blood, my blood. Coppery on my tongue, and realized back. In my skin, aching but whole. The petite frame I'd grieved now a vessel of victory. Victor slumped in the chair. Helmet askew. His face slack. Eyes vacant as a crashed hard drive. The overwrite had backfired spectacularly, his consciousness fragmented. Echoes trapped in the rig's buffer like ghosts in the machine. Medics would call it a stroke. Irreversible, the headlines. A tragic lab mishap. But I knew, revenge. Served neural. Sophia burst in with security alerts blaring, helping me unstrap him. It's done, she asked, voice a mix of awe and wariness. I nodded, legs wobbling as I stood in my own heels.
Done.
Call the cops, anonymous tip. Victor Hale, DOA suspect in fraud probe. She did. And as sirens wailed distant, we torched the server room. Metaphorical fire. Really? A targeted EMP pulse from the prototype. Evidence vaporized. But the leaks? Immortal on the web. The twist hit en route to the ER. Sirens parting traffic like Moses in an ambulance. Victor's phone, clutched in my hand, lit up with a final voicemail. Cued pre-confrontation. His voice gravel over my vocal cords. If you're hearing this, Annabelle, it's because you won. But listen close. The $4 mill? Not mine. Your father's. He cooked it, begged me to cover. Riker's was penance he earned. I just facilitated. For the family. Static. Then click. The world tilted. Dad? The man who'd sung rancheras at dawn. Who'd sacrificed for us.
No.
The ledger I'd found. Victor had planted it. But the timestamps. They aligned with Dad's old sign-offs. A secret buried deeper than betrayal. Javier Ruiz, cornered by debts from a gambling slip in Atlantic City, had skimmed first. Victor discovered, blackmailed him into silence, then flipped the script, taking the bulk for eternal echo, framing the rest on Elena to tie loose ends. I'd borne the mistake, the intern auditing shadows, swap or no swap. The truth reversed, villain to victim, or enabler. Dad's eyes at the brownstone flashed, guilt, not just grief. Cops swarmed the lab as dawn cracked, O'Brien cuffing the guards while feds swarmed the penthouse feeds. Victor's death made national news. Tech mogul dies in freak accident amid scandal. ProPublica dropped the full exposé. Sophia's face blurred in testimony. My parents cleared in a presser that afternoon. Elena tear-streaked. Javier stone-faced. Whispering gracias. Mija as cameras flashed. But the twist festered. I visited Dad in the hospital wing. Post-interrogation. His hand frail in mine.
Pa.
The money.
Why?
He deflated. Confessions spilling like bad wine. A stupid night. Poker with sharks. Thought I could fix it quick. Victor found out. Said he'd handle, but he took more. I let him. To protect you. Betrayal's Mobius strip. He borne it for me. I'd avenged for him. Victor puppeteered it all. The ending? Debatable as a Supreme Court leak. Hail Tech crumbled, acquired by vultures for pennies. Eternal Echo shelved as unethical quackery. Sophia got her green card. Pro bono from a foundation flush with my anonymous donation. Victor's slush fund. Repurposed. Mom rebuilt the bodega. Rechristened Ruiz Roots. A community hub slinging justice with a coffee.
Me?
I ghosted to LA. Chasing screenplays about swapped souls and stolen dreams. The swap's phantom itches fading under palm sun. Happy? In fragments, family mended. Empire dust. Tragic? The mirror still startles. Whispering, what if I'd overwritten him? Or worse, what if Dad's the real ghost? America's like that, triumph laced with thorns, where revenge tastes sweet until you choke on the pits. I won. But victory's a controversy. A debate in the dark, hero. Or just another player in the game. As the credits roll on this chapter, I raise a glass to the swapped, the scarred, to burning it down, and building from ash. Fade to black.